Welcome to Now and Forever, a series of 10-minute reflections on good news spirituality, sponsored by the Charles and Catherine Free Family Foundation, headquartered in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Hi, I'm Father Vincent Free, MSc, a missionary of the Sacred Heart. I'm stationed in Watertown, New York, working in family evangelization. Here with me is Miss Vicki Phillips, parishioner and choir member of Our Lady of the Sacred Heart Church here in Watertown. Hi, Vicki.
Hi, Father.
Okay. What we're doing here, as you know, is we're reviewing a collection of short commentaries on a spirituality based on an acceptance of the good news of God's love. Vicki has the job of interrupting me or stopping me when there's need for explanation or clarification. And what we're doing here is try to arrive at a better understanding through discussion of this for ourselves, and also to share this with you who are looking or following us in this series. We're also going to see how or why this could be, this apostolic spirituality could be a good response to the church's call for a new evangelization. So we begin, and the title of this one is Spirituality. Enough already? Question mark. Okay, so there's a story. This is the text. There's a story about St. John the Evangelist in his declining years that says a lot about putting first things first. Vicki. Before
you go on, could you tell me a little bit about who St. John the Evangelist was?
Okay, well, he was he's the guy that wrote the fourth gospel, the Gospel according to John. Mm-hmm. And evangelist, that's what it means, good news. You know, when we talk about new evangelization, it's the good news of God's love. And John had a very, how would I say, his whole point of view with Jesus was not, it was much more mystical and much more, how would I say it, you know, they call him the eagle, he flies. It really, and he uses, for example, he uses the word truth 36 times, I think it is, in his gospel and epistles. 36 times. You know, the other three evangelists use that same word 3 times. So now when he's talking about truth, he's talking about life, light, truth, and love. That's what he's talking about all the time. Those 4 things are like synonymous. So, okay, so that's who he was. He's the evangelist. And what did he say here? Oh, there's a story about St. John. Okay, now he goes on, no longer able to walk or stand, John was brought on a stretcher into the very midst of the faith community. A great silence fell, and the presbyter asked John to share some of the wisdom he had gathered in his close association with the Lord. Can you just explain what a presbyter is? A presbyter is what we'd call him. It's like an elder or a priest. So this guy was the head of the community there. He was like you would call him the MC or the celebrant or the guy who was arranging. So the presbyter asked John to share some of the wisdom he had gathered in his close association with the Lord. So John propped himself up on one elbow and said, "Love one another." His words were met with a show of dismay. "We've heard all that. Tell us something new." John found himself lost for words. If John had been questioned as to what the word love meant, he would have told them. His writings are saturated with insights on how, oh, here it is, how truth, light, life, and love are all as one. He would have shown that we cannot come to know ourselves, God or neighbor, until we first recognize that we are fashioned in the image and likeness of God, who is love. So what does this have to do with spirituality? As you might guess, although we haven't mentioned it, Christian spirituality is really about love.
Can you just expand a little bit more on that?
Well, okay.
Christian spirituality is really about love.
Okay, so, well, it's like, you know, it's like I said when you ask, why do you call this Now and Forever? It's really about love. But love is such a misused word that if you just said it's about love, you'd have to really wonder. But St. Teresa, the little flower, she says spirituality is love. It's your relationship. It's the why that you do things. Well, let's see what he says here. Spirituality is really about love. It's about the why in terms of motivation, and also the what for in regard to ultimate purpose. So the why is, why do I want to do this, and what purpose do I want to achieve? And now, okay, along with the how. which means that the means for realizing both the why and the what for. So the how would be then the spirituality through which you actually live and express and share your faith. Here. Of course, the word love can and is badly misused. Under proper examination, counterfeit concepts of love can be exposed. There's a great difference between a self-serving show of love that is manipulative, possessive, conditional, and bent on excluding others, and authentic love, which unfolds in the gift of oneself in a creative and mutually liberating way. So, does that explain what we were talking about there? That
Yeah.
spirituality and love are synonymous, but when you use a word like spirituality, it adds, it's like you're looking at it from a certain perspective. When you talk about the love of a child for a mother or spouse and so forth, that's a perspective. But here, when you talk about spirituality, if your spirituality does not really somehow or another make you more aware of your identity and your purpose in life, and give you the perspective of who you are and why God made you, that's going to be a spirituality that doesn't have any grounds for it, and you're going to, it could be like even a New Age self-serving spirituality where you're trying to sort of save yourself. So here what he's saying is, when he said, I guess spirituality enough already, that we don't want to give up on the use of that word. It still has a purpose. And even though it is about love, we're going to look at love in a certain way. So what he's saying essentially is put first things first, and don't give up on this whole concept of spirituality until you really come to understand it at depth. So going back on what we've already said, I think before you had asked a question about what words did we use in talking about spirituality before Vatican II. And I said, we talked about different aspects of spirituality, but the word I didn't mention is, and I have it in this paper, is devotions. Before Vatican II, we always spoke about devotions. And what happened when Vatican II came along, they wanted to emphasize the importance of liturgy, which is the epitome of our worship and prayer. But if you don't pray during the week, it's not likely you're going to pray and worship well on Sunday. So a lot of people threw away the devotions. And that left a real vacuum, a void there. And a lot of people, having lost that sense of personal piety that you achieve through living a devotion, they finally gave up even going to church. So it was not a good move. And this idea of devotions, the way, I think, let me check this paper here. We got time? Yeah, we do. Hang on just a sec. I want to see what John Paul II said about this. Oh no, he said, wait a minute. Oh, here it is. He says, we still have time. Popular devotions have to be enriched by authentic doctrine. All too often, popular devotions have a narrow focus. They need to be more inclusive in regard to doctrine. Secondly, devotional practices have to lead to sincere conversion. Popular devotions often lack the healthy practice of self-examination needed to lead to a sincere conversion. It happens that pious people become oblivious to their own faults. And like the Pharisees, praying in the temple come to fancy themselves without need of correcting any attitudes or faults. And then finally, that popular devotions lead to a practical exercise of charity. Those taken up with popular devotions often remain preoccupied with their own spiritual journey without due regard for fulfilling the mission of the church in keeping with the exercise of charity. So here we go back again to the first thing where we talked about the church, the parish, witnessing your faith and doing things together to bring your values and truths into the culture and cultures of the world. So this is what he's talking about in this session. I should have mentioned that in the last one. It just didn't occur to me at the time. So, any questions?
No questions. No
questions. All right. I think we can say that he is right in saying put first things first and don't give up on spirituality too quickly. What is the first thing? Of course, it's worship and prayer. But that worship and prayer must translate into action. And that action can't be taken all by yourself. You have to join with other members of the parish, especially for, as I mentioned, for single parents. They need that support of the community. Thanks for listening. Take care and God bless.